Hi everyone and welcome to Web is Step Tutorials. This is Ahmed Fakhr and this tutorial about how to work with tab navigation. If you remember, the first tutorial on this series is about introduction to React Navigation Library and about how to work with the first type of this React navigation, which is stack navigator. The second type is a tab navigation. In this video, we have 4 examples on how to work with tab navigation. Let's see what you will learn in this tutorial. We have 4 examples. Minimal example of tab-based navigation, which is a simple example of how to use a tab navigation. The second example, it's about customizing the appearance of the tab navigation to add icons and styles. The third example about how to jump between tabs. The fourth example about how to integrate Stack Navigator with tabs. Let's do it. Welcome again. This is the first example of how to use Tab Navigator. The first step to use Tab Navigator is to import Tab Navigator from React Navigation. Here we have two components, home screen and settings screen. Home screen, which return a view which work as a container for this text. Remember, the view work as a container, like in the web you use the div. Here you use view, and text work like span in the web. So in text we write home, which is about the home screen, and in the settings we have a view with the text settings. Now to run the navigator, we export tab navigator, which has two objects, home and settings. In home, we define a screen with the component home screen. In the settings, we have a screen which has a component settings screen, like what we did in Stack Navigator, as simple as you saw. Let's run the example. Remember what the code that we use to run this example. Take a moment to remember. Yes, React dash native run dash Android. Wait a moment. As you see, there is two tabs, home and settings. The current tab is home. If you click on settings, you go to the settings tab. If you click on home, you go to home tab. Now, what if we want to make settings the first tab? Let's think. Say it. Yes. Make settings the first tab on tab navigator. Let's refresh. RR settings is the first tab on this screen. Now let's go to the second example. In the second example, we're changing the appearance for the tab navigator by adding some styling, icon and changing in the options of the tab navigator. How we do this? Let's go in details by discussing line by line. The first line, which is importing ion icons from React Native vector icons. This is a popular React Native package which used to add an icons to your project. Let's search for this package at first. If we go to their repository, and here we see all the icon bundled sets. We have many types, and one of them it's ion icons. Also, if you are a web developer or a web designer, you maybe know about Font Awesome. It is a most popular icons for web developer and web designer. Ion icons is produced by Ionic framework. If you not know about Ionic framework, it is a most popular framework for Cordova. Here the list of all its icons, and now it's handled by React Native because it is open source icon. Now to search for the icon you need in your project, you can click on browse all, and here you can search for the right icons to your project. But before this, how to install this package? It is very easy to do this task. At first, you use this code under installation title. Copy and paste here. But first, remember, you should stop your project before install any new package because it will crash your app in the emulator. How we stop the project when it's running? Give you a moment. Yes, by using Control C, it will terminate the project and choose Y. Press enter and it will stop the project. Now let's install this. Wait a moment until finish installation, and remember, you use --save to save this package in package.json because in the future you may use this package again in a new project. Now as you see, the package installed successfully, but I will do another step. Here's the React navigation in 1.0.3 version and care to be on the latest version in my tutorials, so I will reinstall again. How I do this? Copy and paste again. Press enter, and as you see, it is version 1.0.3. Let's go to package.json to check what happened. Here, React Native vector icons and React navigation. Now back to our project. Here we import the tab navigator and the TabBar bottom from React navigation. Why we import TabBar bottom? Because in this example we tell the tab navigator to add the tab navigator in the bottom, because as you saw in the first example, when you use tab navigator the default position is on the top. So to make it on the bottom, use TabBar bottom. Now the same component as it is home screen, which render the text home screen, and here the settings screen, which render the text settings screen. Let's close this, nothing new here. And in the tab navigator we have two curly braces which hold two options. The first one, which was discussed in the first example, which is defining the screens. We have home screen and settings screen. We open a curly braces and add the object and pass the component to the screen. As you know before, screen should pass by a component. So we have a home screen component and setting screen component. The next curly braces, which has navigation options, tab options, and other options. The first navigation options, what was we discussed in the first example, has a parameter which is navigation. Are you remember navigation what hold? Navigation hold what? Answer this. I give you a moment to answer. Yes, it holds the current route. Into navigation options we have a tab bar icon. Tab bar icon has two parameters, focused and tint color, which handle how to add an icon to the tab navigator. So because we change the appearance for the tab navigator, here we pass to the tab bar icon this icon, this component. Tab bar icon return a component. Please don't confused by this code. Just remember that tab bar icon is an option into navigation options, and tab bar icon return a component, any component, not just ion icon component. As you see in this comment, you can return any component that passed to tab bar icon. But in this example, we use ion icons, which is returned by React Native vector icons. When we want to use ionic icon, we add this slash and add ion icons path, and here we use import ion icons and use this example. To specify which icon we use from ion icons, we use this code. First, we define the icon name, and here as the first example we pass navigation state, which is the current state, to variable or constant, which is route name, and we make a condition. This condition is if the current route is the route name equal to home, which is if we on the home screen, what to do? Return this icon, which is iOS information circle, or return this icon if we on the screen settings, which is iOS options. To clarify this example, let's copy this icon. This is the icon name, and we go to this list. Are you remember? This is the list which was opened from here, browse all. Now let's search for this icon. We have two icons for iOS information circle. The first iOS information circle, the second iOS information circle outline. Let's go to the example. This icon is iOS information circle, and here we make a condition for focused. Focused, it's determined if we on this tab and we tabbed it. If we tabbed on the home, then return empty. If we not tabbed on this tab, return outline. So if it is empty, then it will return this iOS information circle only, and we see this icon. And if we not on this tab, it will return iOS dash information dash circle and add outline to this circle like this, and we see this icon. So why we do this? Because as you see here, we have the same icon but not the same color. Why? To identify which is the current tab. Now, after closing the navigation options, we go to this TabBar options, which used to add a color when you in the active or inactive option. If you on the active on the current tab, it will give it the color tomato, like a red color. When the tab is not active, it will give it the gray color. After this, we used the two objects, TabBar component and the TabBar options, these values, TabBar bottom and bottom. The two options, TabBar component and the TabBar position, will ensure that the tab on the bottom, because as we said before, if you not pass these two options, the TabBar default position on the top of the screen. So we need to pass the two options to tell the TabBar to be on the bottom of the screen. After this, we have an animation enabled to enable the animation, and swipe enabled to enable swipe from the right to left and from the left to right, and we make it false. Now there is a missed step, but I preferred to make it after running this example. Now let's run the example. React native run Android. Now let's see the emulator. As you see here, there is no icon and there is no icon. Why? We already installed and importing the ion icons from React Native Vector Icon. Why? Because there is another step. If you see here in installation, the first step is to run the npm install package. The second, for each platform, you should follow the options for the corresponding platform. There is a steps on iOS, Android and Windows. So we go below and here the step. We should copy this code and edit Android app build.gradle. Again, go to Android app build.gradle, not Android build.gradle. Let's go. Android, as you see here, Android app, and there is a build.gradle, and you go to under dependencies here, apply from, and you load this code. Again, to apply these icons and load the fonts, you should first React Native run Android. You should re-render the project again. Wait a moment. And let's open the emulator. And here it is. There is the icons, the home icon and the settings icon. If we go to the settings icon, as you see, the icon will replaced and the color it will be gray. If we on settings, the color is a tomato color and the icon will change. If we on the settings, it will be a tomato icon, as you see here. iOS information circle, and this is the default if we focused. If we not focused, it will be outline. Also on iOS option, if focused or outline. Let's search. As you see, this is the iOS options and iOS options outline. For deep learning, let's give you an information about what happened behind the scene when you apply the fonts here. What happened? Let's go to app and go to intermediates, assets, debug, and you will see fonts. When you apply this code with dependencies, you already installed the fonts. These fonts related to vector icons, as you see in table, evil icons, as you see here. This is the same name for the fonts. It's installed here. And one of them, what we used, ion icons. For sure, you can remove all these icons and use ion icons only, or just add a custom icon. You will find all these steps on the documentation for these fonts. Also remember, you should add the same fonts when you run this application on iOS platform. Now, before going to the last example, which is integrate the stack navigator with tab navigation, you should understand this concept and put this sentence into your mind. The first one is each tab work in a separate stack. The second is each tab hold its own stack navigator. The third is you can imagine it like a container. The tab, you can imagine it like a container that hold its own stack navigators. Let's see this blueprint to understand what it means. If you remember, when we talk about stack navigators, we said that every stack look like a book, and into this book there are many layers. Every layer like a screen. This is the stack navigators. Again, a stack like a book, which have many pages. Every page like a screen. So the stack navigator has many screens. Now, the tab work like a container for the stack navigator. So in Home tab, we have many stack navigators, and every stack has its screens. And the Setting tab work like a container, which has its own stack navigators. So the first, you will define a page, a screen, and then you put the screen into the stack, like when you add a page into a book. Then you wrap all the stacks with the tab. So let's see the code to understand the example practically. This is our example, the last example in the tab navigator. Here we import tab navigator and stack navigator from the React navigation. We create three components: the home screen, which hold a button with go to details, and a navigate, which on press on this button go to details screen. Details screen has only a text with details word. This is the home screen. In the setting screen, we have a button with navigate to details. It is same like home screen, and it's go to details screen. So as we worked before, we create a stack navigator which hold two screens, home and details, and we pass the home screen and the details screen. This is about the home. In the settings, we have a stack navigator which holds setting screen and details screen. The next step, if we want to wrap all these stack navigators with a tab navigator, we should pass it to a constant which is home stack and a constant which is setting stack. So we hold the home stack and the setting stack, and then pass the two stacks, wrap the two stacks in the container which is tab navigator. Here we create home and settings, and we pass the home stack to the home and the setting stack to the settings. So rather than pass the home component and setting component, we pass the home stack and setting stack. Why we do this? Because we will not display only home screen or a setting screen, but we will display a full stack with a navigation from the home to the details. Also, we don't display a setting screen only. So we will define the home stack and setting stack into the tab navigator. Let's run this example to see what happened. React native run Android. Now after the example run, we see two tabs. When we press on go to details button, we go into the home stack into this tab. Are you see? You still on this stack on this tab. If we go back, we still on the same tab. But if we go to the settings, here we go to the setting stack. When we press on go to details button, which on settings tab, we still on the settings tab navigator stack. So this is the full example. All these examples you will find Here in the documentation, go to tab navigation and you will find all the examples code. But what if I want to make it an active learning? Here I want from you to, when you go to the settings and click on details, here I want a button to click and go back to the settings again. This is the first button I want from you. I want another button which is go to settings. You will define this button on the home screen under go to details. When I click on go to settings button, it will go to the settings tab. I ask you to do this task to confirm that you understand the tab and stack navigator examples. And if you have any question, I am here to answer. Please support me with like, share, and comment. And if you're not subscribed and you like this video, subscribe to my channel Web is Step Tutorials. Thank you for watching. See you next in the drawer tutorial. Bye.